Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. Welcome to yet another edition of our broadcast. This is the Hour of Politics. I'm Anthony C. hosting. Into this edition, we have a special guest joining us from all the way Monrovia, Liberia. And to those listening to us, this broadcast is also live on Hot FM 107.9. So we also want to welcome folks in Radio Land joining the broadcast here at Focus on Liberia and Hot FM 107.9. My guest in today's edition of the Hour of Politics is Cornelia Kruah-Togba, former representative candidate on the CPP ticket, who is also a member of the Unity Party. She is here as my guest. The topic that we are discussing today is politically juicy. The possible Joseph Nyumah Buakai presidency. And we want to know how will it be different based on Mr. Buakai's record as vice president and all other positions that he have had the opportunity to serve in the government for our country. At this time, let me welcome my guest, that is Cornelia Kruah-Togba. Welcome. I'm happy to have you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here today.
All right, that is my guest, Cornelia Kruah-Togba, and we are here to talk about the possible Joseph Nyumah Buakai presidency. As you all know, Mr. Buakai is a candidate, or will be a candidate, because he is member of the CPP. Our understanding is that he has made it known that he will be contesting. And so he stands a chance, right? Because somebody will have to win this thing to provide the leadership Liberians are yearning for, because I'm not sure Liberians are happy with what we have today. And that is why we are here to talk about. But before we get started, let me get to Cornelia a little more here. Many people, don't know you, or maybe few people don't know you. Who is Cornelia Kruah-Togba?
Cornelia Kruah-Togba is a Liberian. In the context of the Liberian youth policy, still a youth. In the context of outside Liberia, not so much a youth. I'm a political scientist, so to speak. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in economics from the Stella Maris Polytechnic. I have a Master of Arts degree in international politics and economics from Kingston University in the United Kingdom. I'm currently a graduating senior of the Louis Arthur Graham School of Law. As mentioned by the host, I'm a former representative candidate of District 13, Montserrado County, Republic of Liberia. I currently serve as the National Assistant Secretary General for Press and Publicity of the Unity Party, and by extension, a member of the CPP Secretariat. So in general, that is Cornelia. I'm passionate about good governance. I'm passionate about youth representation, as well as women's representation and empowerment.
Thank you so very much for that brilliant introduction, putting my audience in the know who my guest is and who Liberians have the opportunity to listen to today. So we are here to talk about Mr. Joseph Nyumah Buakai. Mr. Buakai, we know, has served as vice president and since made a decision to represent our country as a president. To get started, do you think Mr. Buakai has gotten himself into something that he can't handle here?
Definitely not. Okay. We feel that I believe that with the wealth of experience, public service experience that Mr. Buakai comes with, he's in the right position to lead Liberia in the right direction. However, before we go in depth into this discussion, I would just like to lay the groundwork that the Unity Party is a member of the collaborating political party. We remain committed to the CPP framework as it is, which provides that by 2023, we will project a united ticket as the CPP. As we all know, CPP is includes 4 political parties coming together under this banner to make sure that George Weah becomes a one-term president and to liberate the Liberian people from the current harsh realities that we are faced with. Thereby, discussions that I'm having here, projecting Ambassador Buakai as a would-be perfect candidate for the CPP ticket does not in any way undermine the CPP framework or does not in any way overlook the fact that the 4 political leaders of the other of the 4 CPP parties, inclusive of Ambassador Buakai, all have unique qualities and like minds that would definitely provide the transformational leadership that we lead in Liberia. However, for the purpose of this discussion, I'll be going a little more into what we have to offer as the Unity Party. I believe that Ambassador Buakai is the standard bearer of the Unity Party, but he will not be carrying his individual platform. First and foremost, we will be carrying the platform of the Unity Party to the CPP. And once we have decided on a united ticket, hopefully headed by Ambassador Buakai, there will be a merger of the 4 platforms of the 4 political parties within the CPP, which will project as the CPP's platform or roadmap for Liberia. So I just want to lay those groundworks before we go into the actual questions and answers.
Thank you so very much. Nan, I know when I invited you and I saw the post, you said the gloves are on. I mean, you are ready to make the case for the Unity Party and for your candidate in trying to find a president for Liberia. So I see that the gloves are really on here, talking about the Unity Party. But the candidacy about Mr. Boakai will be more so about Mr. Buakai because he will lead the CPP ticket should he be fortunate enough, to win the primary or whatever consultation that will be used. But let's get to it. Mr. Buakai will be president, and if he will be, Liberian will be judging him on the basis of who he is or has been, or his record and everything. So let's talk about unity here, uniting Liberia, keeping the country united, uniting the CPP. Let's talk about that. So with that, I have this question. Is the Unity Party united on political leader Joseph Nyumah Buakai compared to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf? Something that will give Liberian the semblance that when he becomes president, he will unify Liberia?
Well, Unity Party has over the years have had their own issues and that are not unique to Unity Party as a whole. As you know, we were the ruling party for about 12 years. So vast majority of us who got into politics at that time were used to being a ruling party and not an opposition party. And therefore, after the 12 years and not being able to transition and continue as a ruling party, was provided some instability for some individuals within the party, which, as we all know, it wasn't a secret that the Unity Party had its rough roads with disagreements within the parties, with struggles within the party. But notwithstanding, unlike other political parties where when these things happen, they're not able to hold together and keep focus and move forward as a political party, we were able to galvanize our different resources, human and capital resources, to ensure that even after 4 years of the Unity Party leaving state power, we're still able to work together under a joint agenda and work with 3 other political parties to make sure that we continue the legacy of Unity Party, because that was something that we preached during the elections, that the Unity Party had delivered so much for Liberia in 12 years. The Unity Party took over Liberia when Liberia was considered a failed state, when institutions did not work, we didn't have policies, people didn't believe in the possibility of Liberia rising, as we called it. But within the 12 years of Unity Party, we saw that we're able to create institutions and policies and provide the necessary roadmap and leadership that brought Liberia from being known as a post-war country or failed state to one where leadership was being provided on the African continent.
Sorry, let me call you to this point. That was yesterday, and I don't want us to dwell on that. Some may agree, some may disagree. We're talking about going forward now. Hold on.
I was creating the foundation for my next discussion point. Hopefully, I will have learned and you will have seen where I was going with this. As I was saying, the Unity Party as a state believes in continuity. So we have decided to build on those gains, which we hope that this government would have built on. But we've seen that for the last 4 years, everything has pretty much been destroyed. So we'll have to be starting from scratch on those pillars that we put forth in 2017, which includes policies around infrastructure, policies around youth empowerment, policies around education. I will go into in depth as we go into this discussion.
Yeah, Manitoba, I was asking you about unity, and I'm about to do a follow up. I'm glad you acknowledge that. The Unity Party have had its own, rough days and challenges, just like other political parties. And I wanted to know, yes, that happened, but is Unity Party unified now? Because we don't see faces like Wilma Page, we don't see faces like Amara, we don't see faces like Gafwan. Do you have a unified party now?
As far as we know, the Unity Party is a unified party. As we know, within political situations, you have transition from one generation to another, from one set of leaders to another. It still doesn't negate the fact that it's a progress. Life in general is not static, it's dynamic. So you will always see change in faces. Like Cornelia Kruah-Togba here talking today, a few years ago, you would not have assumed that she would be in a position to speak on behalf of Unity Party. So we see this change in leadership. It still does not signify that we are not united. The Unity Party, as our name provides, is still as united, and we're still working together. Otherwise, we would not have been standing as the Unity Party. Yes, we had Chairman Pierre as our political leader, but we had a constitutional transition from his leadership to the next leadership through a mini convention that brought on Chairman Amin Mudad, who is now taking on from where Chairman Pierre stopped to revitalize and rebrand the party as we want it going forward.
Thank you so very much. Stay on reconciliation. Yeah, what role, if any, that you know of, that Mr. Joseph Nyumah Buakai played when he was in government as vice president for 12 years? Will you say he played a meaningful role unifying Liberia then?
Well, unlike today, where we are in a country or we see a government where the vice president goes pretty much head to head with the president of the country, where we see that the vice president is not supported or recognized by the president of the country, where you always have rumors of the vice president, the president, they're not speaking. During our 12 years reign, there was never an instance of conflict between the president and the vice president, and that was because of the relationship they were able to build, the respect they were able to build, and the clear line identifying their individual roles.
Are you very sure of that?
Development process of Liberia. You are saying?
I was just asking, are you very sure of what you're saying, that there was no conflict between Mr. Buakai and Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf then?
There was no publicly known conflict. Of course, every human being will have issues. Every set of human beings will all come from different backgrounds. We all, in fact, should disagree on policy issues. We should disagree on the way things should be done. There should be no instance where you will have a government where everybody is a yes, ma'am, yes, sir, as we see it currently, where if you speak against something that you believe is wrong, you will be outcast from the government and be considered an enemy of the state. We had those issues, but they were never in public there. And that is because they were able to respect each other, respect their different offices, delegate taxes, tax to everybody what you're supposed to do. And that office of the vice president and the office of the president were respected individually by the individuals that were occupying those positions. So yes, I believe that in the past, Ambassador Buakai helped in making sure that the government was united, helped in making sure that the legislature and the executive could work together, and that the executive could get whatever they wanted passed in the legislature easily passed and coordinate between the two branches of government, as should the vice president office do. The vice presidency in Liberia is almost a ceremonial position, but there are spaces where you can function, and I think that he functioned well in those spaces, thereby leading to stability within the 12 years.
Thank you so very much, folks. In cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia. I'm Anthony C. Hosting this is the Hour of Politics. My guest today is Cornelia Kruah-Togba, who is an executive of the Unity Party and by default a member or an executive, if I can put it that way, of the CPP. We are discussing the topic, the possible Joseph Nyumah presidency. You said something that there was, not any known disagreement or confusion between Joseph Nyumah then and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf in the public space. I'm not sure if others will agree with that, because we saw Buakai spoke openly that he was parked. I think that was public. And also when the campaign came, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf at some point was expelled from the party. We also know that Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf refused and did not support Mr. Buakai. Those are evident that there was a serious disagreement and confusion between the two. Do you care to comment on that?
Well, most of those statements are opinionated statements. I would not want to take them for a fact. Some of them were things that definitely happened. As I said, I did not 100% say that there were not points of clash between the two. I did say for the 12 years of reign, there was no known public outburst. Most of what you are referring to now was during the period of the transition, where Madam Sirleaf made it clear that in order for there to be an easy or easy transition from one government to another, she had to play the back role to make sure that this happened. We saw that led to a smooth transition from the party government to the CDC government. That was a personal decision that she made. And individually, we can have opinions around that. But whether that is something that we can consider as a national crisis that we had during the 12 years, I think not. Whether that is something that is normal during campaign seasons and during time where people with personal connections feel that they are obligated to each other and take a step back whenever the other person doesn't do that, I think that was what the case was. But whether that presented any threat to Liberia as a country or brought about the backwardness of the country, I do not believe that was the case.
Thank you so very much. Mr. Mr. Buakai is always been referred to as the elder statesman, and I like that. Also, I think he really is. But this is what I saw also talking about judgment here. At some point, when Mo Ali has some issue with the state, meaning the police or the government, Mr. Buakai and other leaders of the CPP, they walked to the police headquarters with Mo Ali. Some people consider that they were trying to shield him. And CDC, when it was in opposition, did similar thing. When some members of the party, were arrested or called in by the police, the leaders followed them to the police headquarters. Is the elder statement following the playbook of CDC just because CDC won and he wants to win now?
Sorry, I didn't get any part of your question. What was bad? You are saying is the elderly something?
The elderly statement, is it following the playbook of CDC? I was saying, is the elderly statement following the playbook of CDC?
So your question is whether he's now claiming to be an elderly statement?
No, I said he's being referred to as the elderly statement. So my understanding of that
your question is whether your question whether he's claiming of being an elderly statement only because CDC is in government?
No, I'm saying many refer to him as an elderly statement. I agree with that. An elderly statesman should be a man,
Uh-huh.
who is set apart, especially when it comes to decision making. But when More Ali was called in, he followed other leaders in the CPP and went to the police headquarters. I'm saying CDC leaders did the same thing when they were in opposition. Is that an elderly statesman behaved, in a way that others have behaved in the
Well,
past?
of course, his actions by going as a member of the CPP when Mo Ali was called for questioning was something in the right direction. The first thing is that the Unity Party and the CPP at that particular point felt that the rule of law was being abused because that was going to be a clampdown on the opposition. We do not believe that the proceedings that
All right, folks, bear with us here. There might be a little challenge there with her internet. You are watching Focus on Liberia. This is the Hour of Politics with me, Anthony C. And as you can see, my guest is Cornelia Kruah-Togba, former representative candidate for District Number 13, Montserrat County, Republic of Liberia. She is also a leader or an official of the Unity Party. We are discussing the possible Joseph Buakai presidency, looking at Mr. Buakai's record. How will he be able to lead Liberia differently should he be elected as president of the Republic of Liberia? While we wait for Cornelia, she drops off. She will certainly come back. Let me see if we can look at some comments. I still have some good questions for Madam Kruah-Togba. This one is from Koya James. Is Unity Party, if Unity Party returns, we will not see the War and Economic Crimes Court. I have a question on that. This is Siata T. Townsend. What? No George P. Lomo for this discussion? George Lobo is not the only official of Unity Party. Sam Wallo, Vivi Buakai has already expressed that there was a strained relationship with President Salif. No need to deny that now. Just say that and move on. Let's hear from James again. This is why we need him to be an advisor. All right, my guest is back. Let me bring her in. Welcome back. We understand the challenge with the internet there.
No, not the internet. Actually, the LEC tripped, so everything goes off when.
Yeah, well,
LEC goes off.
We hope Mr. Buakai will be able to change that. Should he be fortunate enough? We get this all the time. So you were in speech. I'll go on.
Yeah, so I wasn't understanding your question because you were coming broken. Your question is whether he's claiming to be errorless statement because it's now CDC, and then you reference the actions of going to the police station with Mo Ali, correct?
So what I said was Mr. Buakai is being referred to as the errorless statement. But I was saying also this errorless statement, his behavior of going with Mo Ali to the police headquarters, because he was called in for questioning on a statement that he made. How is that different from what CDC folks did when CDC was in opposition? Is he following the CDC playbook now?
So the first thing is Mr. Buakai went at the police headquarters under the umbrella of the CPP. Which was something that they agreed upon as the CPP to do as a united force. As the Unity Party and the CPP, we all agreed that the actions of the government towards Mr. Ali at that particular point was an abuse of the rule of law and an intent to clamp down on the operation or to strangulate free speech or stifle free speech. So we believed at that time that we needed to show leadership, we needed to show unity, and we needed to show the government that the CPP is united in order to ensure that they do not override the rule of law. So in that particular instance, I believe they were acting as elders. As elders, when things, he didn't go there with rocks in his hands. He didn't go there with people stoning or marching in or running over the LMP. They went there and sat to listen to what are the charges. What did Mo Ali do that was so grave enough for you to declare him as an enemy of the state and allow him to sleep? And in the end, we saw what the result was. The government just wanted to prove that they could put an opposition in jail, and in the end, they did mention that they didn't have any case or any proof, or they couldn't link him to the Arsenal attack at the NEC or other places. So definitely that action as errorless statement was in place because it was because of his being there that they could not override or misuse or misapply the rule of law towards a citizen of Liberia.
Thank you so very much, Cornelia. Let's move on. And Mr. Buakai is on record for saying he is the only man to take President Weah down. Is that statement a good statement looking at the unity of the CPP?
Well, the CPP framework document provides that every political leader has the right to fight for the position of the chairpersonship. The framework document protects that, and that is why you will see every political leader or stand-up bearer within the CPP that has interest in vying for the presidency have been able to come forth and state that interest, because this is in the interest of democracy. We believe that as the CPP, there are two ways through which we're going to select who becomes the head of the CPP ticket. The first one will be trying to build a consensus amongst the four political parties, and you cannot build a consensus except you know who's interested in what. So this is the stage at which everyone will project themselves as the best alternative or the best person to head the CPP. It is against no law of the CPP. It does not contradict the CPP framework. So we do not see that as anything that will bring the CPP to any level of disunity. They all have the right to make those projections. They all have the right to have the ambition to head the ticket, which is expected respected by everybody.
Does Mr. Buakai believe that any leader in the CPP can take President Weah down? Should that person be chosen?
If he did believe that 100%, he wasn't going to say that he believes that he's the only person that can take down George Weah and win. However, in all of his interviews, he has said that the decision of CPP will be respected. Thereby, even though he believes that he's the only one that can take down Ambassador President Weah, which is what vast majority of Liberians believe, if the CPP should decide to go another route following the framework agreement, we are all committed to supporting that person, because our interest is to make sure that Liberians do not have additional 6 years of hardship, additional six years of visionless leadership, additional 6 years of pretty much lack of interest in the forward movement of the country. So in the interest of the Liberian people, and as we have done in the past, he's willing to forego once the CPP decides on who becomes the head, and that person is not him.
Mr. Buakai campaigned for indicted Samokai. He raised his hand. Mr. Samokai won. Mr. Samokai cannot take his seat. Talking about judgment, you think Mr. Buakai made the right decision to have supported somebody who was under investigation by the state?
So the United Party Constitution provides that every partisan within the United Party has the right to contest on the party's ticket. And the party also has clear rules and regulations stating how those selections are being done. Nowhere in the Constitution of the United Party it states that the standard bearer single-handedly decides on who becomes a candidate of the party. The Constitution, however, provides that everyone, once the decision is being made by the majority within the party, is obligated to support the decision as the party's decision. Mr. Buakai's support of Honorable Brani Samukai was because the vast majority of partisans within Lofa County, thereby by extension, the Unity Party decided that this was the person that they wanted to carry as their candidate for Lofa County. It was a decision of the people of Lofa County, which we saw in the end. He won the election by a very wide margin because that was what they want. Mr. Buakai is not someone who goes against the will of the people. And as I said, the Unity Party does not provide him the sole authority to decide who becomes candidate of the party. So he played his role as standard bearer, that whoever the party decides to go on the ticket, you support that person in the interest of democracy.
Cornelia, do you believe the will of the people can be wrong sometimes?
Oh, well, I actually do believe the will of the people can be wrong, as we have seen in the case of the CDC. The CDC becoming the government currently of Liberia, or George Weah becoming the president of Liberia, was definitely the will of the people. Was it the wrong decision? Yes. I believe that this was a terrible decision that we made, and we're hoping that in 2023, the decision that we make can be reversed so that Liberia gets back on the path of development.
Mr. Buakai, as somebody who many would believe wants to see the good of Liberia or for Liberia, whenever he sees a decision that is not in the interest of the people, because it's the will of the people, will he allow it or not allow it or speak against it?
Sorry, any part of the question came in broken.
Will Mr. Buakai go against any will of the people if it is not in their best interest?
What Mr. Buakai can do and what any other leader should do is that if the vast majority of your people make a particular decision, is to try to see how you can convince them to change their mind on that decision. We do not intend to groom a dictator. We do not intend for Ambassador Buakai to be the only person that will speak and nobody else has anything to say, as is seen currently in Liberia. We believe that he should continue to listen to the will of the people in his wisdom, as the standard bearer, in his wisdom as an elderly Liberian. He can advise on what should be done. But we still believe that in the interest of democracy, the will of the people should always prevail. In as much as most of the time the majority are not right, but we can always find ways to make amends. And I personally would not support any leader that does not listen to what the people want. And I personally will encourage any leader to consider the will of the people when making the final decision for the country, because the country is not just yours. You're only the custodian of our own trust that we repose in you.
Thank you so very much. I come back to this question. Earlier, I asked you, did Mr. Buakai get himself into something he can't handle? Some people believe that Ellen Johnson Sirleaf holds strongly that Mr. Buakai cannot handle the presidency. And that is why, even to today's day, there's no record of her supporting Mr. Buakai, despite Mr. Buakai, dedicated loyalty to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf for 12 unbroken years. Is there something that you know that Ellen does not know, for which you support Buakai and she is not supporting Buakai?
Well, before I answer that question, hello, are you getting me?
I'm getting you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay. Before I come in with that question, I would like to state as a foundation that Madam Sirleaf remains a member, a partisan of the Unity Party. As far as I know and as far as the records have it, she has not denounced her membership to the Unity Party, so she remains a full-fledged member. At the point where she was not a member of the party was when they had that expulsion, which she took up the matter. She and other partisans, it wasn't just her, she and other partisans took up the matter with the Supreme Court, and the decision was reversed and she was reinstated as a partisan of the Unity Party. Being a partisan of the United Party means that she is under the constitution of the party to support the decision of the party, something that she, being a founding member of the new United Party, is fully aware of and respects that. As far as we know, Madam Sirleaf publicly announced that she's not going to be actively involved in politics, thereby the fact that she's not in the forefront of any political campaign cannot be equated to her not wanting to support the United Party or the standard bearer of the United Party, for her personal decision not to be as active in politics. And we therefore believe that she is supporting, as far as we know, and as far as there has been no public pronouncement in the contrary, that she's supporting the agenda of the United Party, and she believes that Joseph Boakai, as standard bearer of the United Party, can head the CPP and transform Liberia.
Thank you so very much. Cornelia, there is something I see with political actors in Liberia. Maybe not only in Liberia, but since we're talking about Liberia, let's stick to Liberia. Individuals will say things about them. They will not like it. Those things will be very mean. And when those individuals change their political position to supporting them, they try to say kind things about them, and they work with those individuals. Let me give you a few examples. Somebody who criticizes We Are Today can be praising We Are Today. That person gets a job. Joe Weah is the best person. Joe Weah accepts that support. I don't know whether it's genuine. The same can be said about Ellen. The same can be said about Mr. Boakai. This is what we see. Does that bother Mr. Boakai in any way, that somebody says something mean to you, and now today the person is singing your song and then he accepts that particular support? Is that something he thinks is a good judgment?
Well, as young, I'm not sure I'm understanding the question, but as young as I am as a politician, I'm fully aware that in this game of politics, you will always have people who will say what you want to hear because they want to get their own personal gains. I'm also aware that there is a lot of sycophancy that happens in the political space. And I can just imagine that a politician of so many years as Mr. Ambassador Buakai is fully aware that these things exist. Whether it will have a serious toll on him, I don't want to believe so. As a leader and a politician, we should always expect those things to happen. There will always be realignment, alignments happening in political spaces, because people individually can just believe that a particular place you are does not at that particular time support your own vision, support your own personal growth, support what you believe in at that particular time. And the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia provides the freedom to associate. So you cannot say that somebody making use of that freedom to associate should disenfranchise you to an extent where you take it so personal. So I would want to think that Mr. Boakai is fully aware and willing to accept those alignment and realignments in the interest of how politics is and how things should be. No one is static, everyone is dynamic, and as leader, you should be able to readjust every time you have issues with people jumping ships.
All right, let me bring you some specific example of the question I'm asking. This is one of them, and it came from Daros Dillon. VP Joe Boakai, people always deny he was ever dismissed before. We have proven them wrong. Exposing Major Boakai was indeed dismissed by President Samuel Kanyando for alleged $2 million USD financial impropriety. Boakai was Minister of Agriculture in 1985 when he was dismissed by President Doe. The most embarrassing part about Major Boakai's dismissal was that President Doe recalled him from London, where he was representing Liberia at a conference, and ordered him to return home immediately. This fact cannot be challenged, but Boakai folks who still shamelessly argue. Also, we exposed before that Mr. Boakai was again dismissed in the early 90s from LPRC during the Amos Sawyer interim administration for gross ineptitude, but the Buakai people have said it is a lie. Well, yeah, it's a 1991 Inquirer newspaper talking about that. So this is Darius DeLong, who is seen as sitting at Buakai's feet all the time. How does Buakai feel about this if DeLong is supporting him?
Well, as I said, and I'm sure you are aware that in politics, there is the arm of propaganda. And when you are not on a particular side, it is allowed that you run different propaganda mechanism against the opposing side, which is accepted. But what happens is that in the long run, you see what the truth is. If a Darius DeLong that could say something like that about Joseph Buakai today sits at his feet, asking for wisdom and asking for his blessing, that in turn should even have you questioning whether what he stated at that time was a fact or it was a propaganda mechanism. So I would not want to delve into whether that was truthful or not.
Don't you think that is desperation on the part of Mr. Buakai? I mean, he will just take any support and he doesn't care who it comes from?
No, I don't. As a matter of fact, I don't think that is one thing that is suffering us here in Liberia at the moment. You have a government that does not allow criticism at any level. And once you open your mouth and criticize the government, you are claimed to be enemy and you should be seen nowhere near them. That is not leadership. Our leaders should know that when somebody says something or does something and realize that what they said is wrong or was not in the right direction and come back and make amends, you should be able to incorporate all of them because that is your business, to serve the people of Liberia. And you know better as a leader than they do as a people. That is why you are even a leader. So I see no wrong in opening your arms to people that once criticize you for whatever reasons, because an attempt not to do that will continue to foster the culture of division amongst the Liberian people and disunity, as we are seeing it being at the highest currently. Well, once you speak against the government, it can't even be seen sitting on the same table with people from the government because they're afraid that they will lose their jobs. If they sit by you and say hello, then they will lose their job. So
Cornelia, may I? If I may, but here's the thing. DeLong was not preaching propaganda. He had accused Mr. Buakai of impropriety. He went, and up to now, there's no record whether he has retracted that accusation against Mr. Buakai. And Mr. Buakai sits with him because he wants support.
Accusations do not make factual. I would say more that at the point where Darius DeLong was sitting at the feet of Buakai, Darius DeLong was the one that wanted support from Buakai. So it's the other way around as you're trying to play it. If he was anybody like our current president, he would not have even given his support to DeLong based on that one statement. But because he is a statesman and he's an elderly person, and with the amount of leadership ability that he has and wisdom, he knows that when you are in the heat of politics, people say things, most of them not factual, because they want to get certain followings, because they want to be hailed by those that they are supporting. And as a good leader, you cannot hold that over the person's head as long as the person comes to the realization that what they were doing is wrong. Again, the ball is in Abraham Darius DeLong's court to decide whether what he did in the past was right, whether it was factual, whether it was a propaganda. But the fact that he can today sit at the feet of Ambassador Joseph Buakai, who he once accused of all of these things, should tell you that that in fact was a propaganda mechanism that was in place during the heat of an elections.
Let me bring you another one, Madam Toba. This one.
Change. Joe Buakai has no fresh ideas. Joe Buakai is not able to run this country. He's a dead man walking. He's a dead man walking, and I cannot support a dead man walking.
So that was Mr. Costa referring to Mr. Joseph Buakai, that he has no fresh ideas. He cannot run this country. He's a dead man walking. My question is Mr. Buakai a dead man walking?
Of course he's not. If he was a dead man walking, that was 2017, we should still be seeing him around here at this time strong and moving. So again, I pretty much see where you're going with this, because all of these actors you are bringing in and showing as examples are people who are either part of the CPP currently or supporting the CPP currently. And your own argument is that the fact that they once said things about him in the heat of an election as a propaganda mechanism, he should not open his arms to them. And I think that is where the flaw is in your own analysis, and that is where the public will have to judge, because I believe that Ambassador Buakai is doing the right thing by opening his arms to even those that once criticized him, because as a leader that intends to unite a country, as a leader that intends to drive a united agenda, as a leader that has a clear roadmap that should involve everybody, every citizen, despite your social, political, economic standing. You cannot start to drive people or not accommodate them because they once spoke negatively about you in a space that they had to do it. So again, you just played a video of Costa. I would like you to host him and ask him whether he still feels the same way. I believe not, as we have in recent time heard everything that he has had to say about Ambassador Buakai. I believe those things were momentary there and they were done in the heat of politics, which is allowed, especially in African politics.
And Cornelia, the war allowed, I like the war allowed, but will Buakai trust these people after they said all these things about him?
If he didn't trust them, they will not be in his close cycle. If he didn't trust them, he will not work with them. But he has worked with them over the past. He has continued to work with them. You've seen Darius Dillon and Buakai. You saw Buakai campaign for Darius Dillon here. You've seen Ambassador Buakai and Costa. He recently appeared on his talk show, and they have a good relationship. Of course, he's open to working because he's a statement. He knows that
don't you think, Cornelia?
He knows that we as young Liberians will continue to make mistakes in the heat of our thinking that we are now politicians, and he's willing to accept us whenever we recognize that.
Cornelia, don't you think these individuals did what they did by supporting Buakai now because of what they're going to get and not where Liberia will go tomorrow?
How does that does not even make sense, because you will want to support a certain government that has all of the resources and everything if you are interested in building your personal fortune, a government that allows containers to get missing and nobody knows where the money is. You will want to align with that kind of government if you are all in it for personal gains and not align with leaving the known for the unknown, because this is actually a bet that we're putting on the Liberian people that in 2023 we will make the right decision. It's possible that we might make the wrong decision and Liberia will have 6 additional years of doom. So no individual who is interested in accumulating personal wealth or fame will want to go to where it is not there now, and you just sit and say the grass is green on the other side and I will wait for it, especially in our current dispensation. I think that they are sincere in their support for him, and I think that he's doing the right thing to accommodate everybody that has the interest of the country, or at this moment have realized that they have to put the interest of the country first.
I have the opportunity to talk to some insiders in Buakai's corner or in the Buakai's camp. And what I gather is that they said to me, Mr. Buakai is stuck in the past, that his leadership style is a patronage leadership style, and he is not swift when it comes to making decisions when those decisions are needed. Is that the kind of leader we need for Liberia?
Well, I would say that is not his leadership attribute. Those are definitely not his leadership attributes. Ambassador Buakai has managed to strike a balance between the older generation and the younger generation. Whether he will have majority of the older generation, obviously that will be the case. If I, for example, as Cornelia was to be put in a leadership position or in a space you will see that a vast majority of those that will be around me will be within my generation and my age, because those are people that I know, those are people that I've worked with. However, I will still have people from older generation to be able to get advice. So that is just something that comes natural. And I believe that he has done as much as he can to keep a balance. And that is why you have people as young as myself, as young as Mo Ali, as young as Costa, as young as Delon, as young as Tivia, and everybody else, that we are in the same space working together to make sure that we drive this agenda. All of the different committees that are being formed to work on different things at the level of the CPP, there is always a mixture of the older generation, the younger generation, and an attempt to ensure that there is some level of gender balance. So I do not believe in that statement. I think you're asking in the wrong corners. And your second question was what?
No, that's it. I can go to another question. That was just one question.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you so very much. So let's come to, of recent, Mr. Buakai says something that you who are in his corner trying to follow or bring to the Liberian people's attention, which is art. What is art? Is that a plan?
Well, that is a working plan of the CPP. As I said earlier, that this is a process of combining and merging all of our different plans. Mm-hmm. So every political party, we are currently at the level of CPP developing a complete policy document that incorporates the 4 political parties' agenda for the country. And ours is just like a summary of what Ambassador Buakai wants to do, focusing on agriculture, tourism, and the rest of it. But there is a bigger platform that includes everything from looking at the economy as a whole, the macroeconomy of the country, that focuses on social infrastructure development of the country, that of course focuses on agriculture.
All right, folks, bear with us there. My guess, internet is sticking a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, I think we're back. There is also the area of governance. So there we have, as the Unity Party, a 6-pillar overall plan that will be submitted or has been submitted to the CPP along with the other 3 political parties. And in the coming weeks or months, we'll be launching the overall policy plan of the CPP. And that is what now we will drive as the CPP, as our own policy or our own platform for a transformation for Liberia.
So at this time, the art that Mr. Buakai is trying to tell us about, it is not anywhere that the Liberian people can go and read and maybe get to know a little more other than arts.
Sorry?
I mean, the plan art, you say it's a plan. Where is it that we can go and read it to know about it?
Well, it's a public document that once requested for can be provided. I will definitely take this down and ensure that in the coming days or week, on their pages and on our webpage, we'll try to dissect it portion by portion so that it can be provided readily for the public. That is something I'm going to bring to the attention of the Secretary General, but it's a working document that once requested for can be shared.
So the Unity Party believes that the current administration that we have, which is that of President Weah, is not up to the task of moving our country forward in a transformative way. I happen to believe that strongly. What will the Unity Party government or a CPP government under Jose Nyumah Buakai do differently to better the situation?
Well, that just brings us back to what our platform is, what our plans are, and I can quickly go into it. Firstly, I talked about the macroeconomic strategy for stability and social economic development. There are a lot of different segments under that where we talk about ensuring a more prudent financial management system. We see currently in Liberia, our different financial management systems are failing in the country. We want to also have a stable monetary policy. We currently see fluctuation in the rates. One meaning there is increased inflation, another meaning there is shortage in the Liberian dollars. And those things happen when you do not have a long-term plan or policy as a government, which is something that we're lacking, or you're not referencing those plans and policies that you have. We also will be able to, we also want to reinforce those structural reforms that we had. Again, as a background, these were all things that were done by the past Unity Party government that have been destroyed to some extent by this government, and we intend to work with it. We know that in every country, the workforce is the most important resource that you have to succeed as a government. We now see a civil service that has gone from being one of the best in Africa with relations to policy and placement and growth in your professional life to one where you just chosen for civil service position based on the fact that you're from a political party, something that we didn't see for the 12 years of Unity Party rule, where you have people from the opposition serving in different civil service positions across the government. This is something that we intend to bring and reform the civil service. Now, also looking at agriculture, this is something that Ambassador Buakai is passionate about. As we know, he has a background in agriculture. Most of his early professional life was in agriculture. So we're interested in increasing productivity and food security. We also want to be able to utilize our forestry and other national resources. We know that we currently have a very bad balance of trade where we import more than we export, and we have all of the different resources here in Liberia, in as much as the world market determines the price and thereby will drop the value every now and then. But if you invest in producing in higher quantity or even producing last product, you'll see that that will increase your agricultural import. It will increase your agriculture, yes, what you get in from agriculture. So that's something we want to work on. Another thing is governance and rule of law, which is something that is lacking currently in Liberia. We cannot overemphasize the fact that the rule of law is not currently in place. You have a police structure that is partisan based, that are not interested in conducting investigation that will help to improve the security of the people. This in turn has had a negative impact on the investment climate. Obviously, investors will not want to come and put money to where they do not believe that the investment will last. And as a result, we have seen that the public sector has reduced a whole lot. The public sector is not providing the jobs that it should be providing. And the private sector and everyone now is running to the public sector. So that's something that we intend to work with as well. And that's generally building our foreign relations. Relations in the past, for the 12 years of Unity Party, the image of Liberia outside of Liberia was very high, and that was something that was championed by Madam Sirleaf as the president of the country. We currently have a government where the foreign minister cannot even go to the US because he has something hanging over his head, or he can't engage with other places, or has no proven track record or background in forest service or having the necessary network to move the country. We intend to use the yeah.
Yeah, thank you for articulating, the vision of the Unity Party of Ambassador Joseph Nyumah Buakai. But here is the thing: you talk about agriculture. Mr. Buakai, like you rightly said, was there before when he was vice president. I'm not sure Liberia was producing more than it was consuming, and like you also said earlier, the vice presidential position is like a ceremonial position. So basically, you are saying he was just there. There's nothing he could do. So how can we be sure he wouldn't have the experience of making things happen? He's going to do it this time. Now, the other issue you talk about is the issue of security. Throughout that 12 years, Liberia security was in the hands of foreigners. United Nations peacekeeping mission was there throughout. They provided if I can say, most of our security at the time. So Joseph Nyumah Buakai does not have the experience of running the nation's security apparatus, free of foreign help or United Nations help. So what are the experiences that we can be sure of that he's going to use to better things like the economy?
So, firstly, I would want to correct your statement.
Okay.
I believe that a lot of progress was made, as I stated in my introductory statements. When the United Party took over Liberia, Liberia was a failed state. There were no farmers that were producing up to the level of selling for others to buy. Everyone was producing just for them and their family to eat. Currently, up to the time where the CDC government just had a stalemate and just sitting and focusing on only getting money and using it for the personal goods, we had an agricultural sector where you had small agriculture, you have farmers that were provided by with grants. You had some level of merchandising agriculture going on, although it wasn't at the very highest, but were able to move from a stage of having completed nothing to a stage where the foundations for all of these things were set. We had different partners that were willing to work with us to develop those sectors further, and most of those projects have been abandoned and currently is not even a focus of this government. Had this government just taken Liberia from where it was 12 years, don't even go on a very high progress rate, just maintain what we had, we will have made very great progress as we have. So I believe that that statement that there was no contribution made to the agriculture sector is wrong, and that with a new form of leadership after the CDC government, we can be able to invest more in that. You also talk about the foreign,
I will
you
allow
talk
you to
about
continue.
the
Colonial, I will allow you to continue, but under the Buakai
peacekeeping
alien
forces.
administration,
Yeah.
yeah, I say I will allow you to continue, but I want to throw this in there. Under the Buakai alien administration, report had it that these equipments were brought in and they are not in Lofa, whether or not they were ever used to engage in mass production, and yeah, they are.
Okay, so you know what I can also do? I can right now go on the internet and get pictures too of moving vehicles and project them and tell you report has it that these vehicles were moving during the early administration. So I would not, to some extent, I would not grant so much credit to what you're doing currently, showing pictures of old vehicles parking and attribute that to an
these are
overall
the
failure of
agriculture.
the agriculture. I would
These
not.
are the agriculture equipment that were brought in.
As I was saying, I am not going to dignify putting pictures up and saying because these equipments are sitting down, so the agricultural sector of Liberia did not progress. Because I can also send you videos or pictures of equipments that were working and say because of this, the agriculture. So I think if you had statistics to throw around, if you have statistics to throw around, I will give it a little bit magnitude. But I think what you're trying to do now is trying to create a picture out there that isn't a reality. As I said, the records are there, the numbers are there, the progress is there. And as a journalist, I hope that we'll be able to do more research and gather these facts outside of just getting still pictures and projecting them as the overall reality on the ground. As I was saying about the security sector,
I'm not just getting pictures. These are pictures
that's all you
of equipment that were brought into the country.
So this is a country that has a lot of equipment, and then you show me 3 equipments picture and say because of these 3 equipments that you see parking here, that is why the agriculture. Like I cannot engage in that kind of debate because I've already laid the basis of how we're able to move the country.
All right, our guest is
Whether because an equipment that was used for 7 to 8 years, and live up to the time frame that it should have been used, was packed because they had taken all of the value from it, and it had accomplished the intended purpose, is being shown on a screen, and I should attribute that to a failure of the entire agriculture sector, I would not want to engage into that, because I do not believe that that is a clear picture of what unfolded when the administration.
So, Cornelia, let's come to accountability here. Time is fast spent. What will we see in a Buakai administration when it comes to accountability? You, the Unity Party folks, accusing CDC of all the corruption in the war. Would there be any form of accountability should Mr. Buakai become president of Liberia?
I think one of the first things that the Unity Party has always challenged this government to do was to conduct an audit of the past government, because it is easy for one to sit and throw around claims of corruption and mismanagement without a proper audit that will be able to identify, after which time prosecution could go over those that are being accused of economic crimes. One of the things that the Unity Party / CPP leadership as a whole hopes to do is to conduct an audit of this government after this government shall have come to an end. And as I said, most of the plans that will be unfolded will be CPP plans. They are still work in progress. I can speak to them on the surface, but I cannot speak to them for certain reasons in depth. But I can assure you that this CPP leadership is committed to ensuring that there is transparency and accountability within Liberia, and especially in the governing system.
Cornelia, during the 2017 presidential debate, Mr. Buakai was on record for saying he wanted the True Commission similar to what they had in South Africa. And now he is saying he wants the War and Economic Crimes Court. Why is he just changing position? Is it because of convenience now?
No, situations change. And even as a human, when your environment, the situation changes, you have to change. You cannot be stuck in the old way all the time. That is not how a progressive leader acts. At the time when he made that recommendation, it was what in that particular time or what the Liberian people wanted. Now, currently, the Liberian people want something else. And what they want and what has been agreed on is what we support as the Unity Party, is what we support as the CPP, which I'm sure you have read all of the different statements that we've put out as individual political party and as the CPP. So yes, there will definitely be change. Every time technology changes, every time environment changes, every time the people mindset change, you have to adjust and change. You cannot keep doing things.
All right, folks, bear with us here. Certainly she will be back. That is Cornelia Kruah-Togba, my guest on the Hour of Politics here at Focus on Liberia, and we have been discussing the Joseph Nyumah Buakai presidency. Should Mr. Buakai be fortunate enough to win? Cornelia, for some reason you froze there. I'm sure you're back now.
The internet dropped.
Yeah. Please continue on your point. I want to ask my final question here.
Oh, no. I completed my point. I said that you will not expect any progressive leader to remain static on your thoughts, on your position, as the people change, as the conditions change, as the environment change. So you expect that to change, adjust every time to fit your current reality.
Thank you so very much. In the CPP framework, there's something that is said that in order to be considered, for an appointment or a role in the government, you must be known, you must be active, and you must be visible. Is Mr. Buakai visible, known, and active right now?
The fact that he's even being considered as the standard bearer of the CPP should answer that question. I think going to answer it to say whether he's visible or whether he's active will just be redundant now, because we'll be saying the same thing over and over. The fact that he's one of the 4 runners for the standard bearership should speak to the fact that he's active, that he's visible, and that in fact he's qualified to head the CPP ticket.
All right. I know some questions are simple, and people who are defending these politicians sometimes, feel that they are redundant, but we're doing a piece of job here for those who are listening. And sometimes you people assume everybody, yes, everything at the same time. No. And that is why we do it this way. It is not in any way, shape, or form, trying to do something else. Now,
believe you me, I will continue to answer once you keep asking.
Thank you so much. And then let's talk about the formation of a possible Joseph Nyumah Buakai administration of government, if you like. What would be his yardstick for people who he would be considering for roles in his government?
Well, as I said, and you clearly stated in the CPP framework, decision on positioning, decision on appointments is something that will be done jointly as the CPP. I believe that it will be in line with the different principles of the CPP: principle of hard work, principle of integrity, principle of loyalty and love to country, track record, proven track record of hard work, of contribution to country, and all of those things will be considered. I cannot tell you for a fact these are the given yardstick because those have not been developed yet, but I can assure you that this will be an open process, and throughout the different stages within CPP, as we have done in the past, the public will be made known of what we are doing, how we are doing it, and when we are doing it.
Mr. Buakai once said that during the administration of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, in which he served as vice president, implementation was not giving emphasis of premium. He went on by saying, instead of implementation, people who were factored into government were just doing PowerPoint presentation, and some of them were just paying their mortgages in the diaspora. Does he really mean that? And will we not see that in his government?
No government. What was the question? Any part of the question? Sorry, you keep me broken. You said what will happen in his government?
Will we not see any of that? Will we not see any of that in his government, where people just making PowerPoint presentation and people in the government paying their mortgages?
Well, I think what that spoke to will be that there will be a mixture of the two. And I would want to say first that no government is perfect. You will always have 1 or 2 persons that might not be going in line with what your policy decisions are, with what your goals and objectives. And that is why during the Unity Party government, you saw many changes in government. There was always government reshuffle. There was even this one time that the entire cabinet was told to go on compulsory leave. These were all things intended to get people working, even though there were some people that would not have interest in working because of their own personal upbringing or their own work ethics. Ambassador Buakai has committed to making sure that the work of the Liberian people is done, and that whoever wants to serve as a leader in Liberia in the executive has to put in the work, because we will have a lot of work to do after the CDC shall have completed all of the destruction that they're currently undergoing. And therefore, we need committed people. We need people that are passionate about doing the work and people that can actually do the work. So I think that was the message he's sending out, and a message that we're all getting loud and clear.
Cornelia, I want to say thank you so very much for honoring our invitation here at Focus on Liberia. We were glad to reach out to you again. My honest assessment is that you answer the questions as they came. And I want you to understand that my job is ask any question, even if it is stupid to the person I'm asking the question. That is my job, to ask the questions. I want to say thank you so very much. And again, will not hesitate to reach out to you. If there's anything you wish to say, then do it now, or also you can give your closing statement.
Thank you for having me here. This was a good interaction. I look forward to more in the future. And I would just like to say to the Liberians, especially the Unity partisans listening, that as always, we are united and working towards making sure that we contribute our own quota to the CPP as an alliance in order to make sure that Liberia gets the leadership and representation that it deserves, and not what we currently have. So I look forward to more interaction from Focus on Liberia and this present interview.
Thank you so very much. That will do it for us here. And we want to say a very big bye-bye to you. And thanks for coming on the Hour of Politics here at Focus on Liberia. Bye-bye. All right, folks, this is how we will come to the end of this broadcast here at Focus on Liberia. I'm Anthony Sied, and I brought you yet another edition of the Hour of Politics. Sorry, because of time, we are not getting to your comments, but we will now bring you the closing song. And you know, we never close our broadcast here without playing this song that says, "We are all Liberians. We are in search for a president that will be transformative." My standard for that president is so high, then I will keep asking all the questions. Even some people feel that those questions are foolish, stupid, whatever they might think of them, I will ask them. Because, like I continue to remind you, I'm looking for that glorious land of liberty by God's command. Cornelia, thank you. Thank you to our listeners. Let's keep talking. Let's keep finding that country, because that country, Liberia, is lost. I don't see it. I see the physical landscape, but I don't see the values, the things that make it to be Liberia. But before we close, we have this to show you.
Hi, my name is Abby Tyler from Pennsylvania, and you're watching Focus on Liberia.
That was from Abby Tyler, and the song "We Are All Liberians" will close us right now. Bye-bye, folks.
Oh,